We welcome you to this edition of Night Shift. Eric Lopez here with you as UCF victorious over North Carolina. 34-9 is the final out of Orlando. Eric Lopez with you. Kyle Nash will join you later on a very dominant performance by the Knights as they improve to 3-0. We'll take your comments and your questions. Your thoughts on this victory for the Knights. Encouraged, discouraged, good, bad. What did you like? Lot to like if you're a UCF fan for sure, but there's still questions that you may have. I think those are some of the lingering topics to discuss here on this program. Make sure you leave your comments. And of course, you can follow the podcast wherever you like to on the Night Shift YouTube channel, as well as on blackandgoldbanneret.com. We'll have a recap of the game and much, much more in this one. As the Knights victorious 34-9, the final score on that one. And it was not that close, folks. It was a dominant performance. A dominant performance by this football team. And I think the question is certainly, do you believe 3-0, 3 wins away from bowl eligibility? What do you like? What do you not like so far from this team? We'll discuss all of that. Is this win the biggest non-conference regular season win in for Scott Frost? You look at the resume, probably so. Probably so. Very convincing victory. Defensively, no missed assignments. Was all big positives in this victory. However, how much of this was the opponent itself? North Carolina looked like a team that was lost for most of this game, that had no idea what they were doing throughout. One of the things I think to takeaways from this football game is real simple. While you may still have questions about Scott Frost and where the direction of the UCF program, one could say is this: he's definitely in better shape than his opponent today, and one Bill Belichick, who was once considered maybe the best football coach in the history of football. That's no longer the case now, as his reputation has been tarnished probably indefinitely. That team that he put out there in North Carolina had no business being on the field. It was poorly coached, poorly talented, bad quarterback play, undisciplined. And now Bill Belichick, people are going to be wondering, wow, this is the fall of grace. That will be the national landscape of this situation. And Scott Frost made him look that way. That's the big turnaround. The key takeaway there is at least you're not Bill Belichick at North Carolina, because that program, if you're a Tar Heel fan today, you know it's over. Like, you're going nowhere and nowhere fast. Whereas if you're UCF, you're Scott Frost, you're feeling encouraged. You're optimistic. They were better at the line of scrimmage. They had better skill. They were better quarterback play. You name it, they had it. And that was a simple story from a UCF standpoint. And we'll see what happens. But that was the big takeaway from this kind of ugly football game, as UCF wins comfortably 34-9 over North Carolina. Now the question is, do you believe, can you shoot for higher? UCF will go to Kansas State next week. Do you believe that could get them to 4-0? You got UCF hosting Kansas in a couple of weeks. Are there some wins here? Is this a team that could contend to the Big 12? I think that's a bit premature. I think this offense still has questions, especially the offensive line. But I do think I liked how Scott Frost, you went fast at times kind of slowed it down, was methodical. You didn't have to do too much. Your defense controlled this football game against North Carolina, and there was nobody that North Carolina made you afraid of if you're UCF. So give me your comments and questions, and we'll take it your way. And hope to have Kyle out here soon to talk about the results here. G-Man Miller with a question for everyone watching and talking about Sean or Kyle. What's the deal? Is it our offensive line? Why Montgomery can't get going? Is it him and we're being spoiled by RJ and Bowser, or is it the USNCD line? I don't know. He had some things going. I think they were chipping away. I think the offensive line is early question. Keep in mind the offensive line has gone through a lot with everything that's gone on with the coaching staff over the last couple of weeks there. So I wouldn't necessarily read too much there. Perhaps a little spoiler, yeah. Excuse me, is the case there, but yeah, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with that. And again, no, again, UCF, I guess, what was it, like 280 to 200 at one point in the fourth quarter total offense? So we'll see. What do you think? Let's see, Big 12 Brad, what do you think UCF's missing to be a competitive for the Big 12 title? I think offensive line better, a little upgrade there. And I just want to see this defense play an athletic offense. We haven't done that yet. They haven't played that yet. I want to see the secondary get challenged when you play teams later in the Big 12. I think that's going to be the key. Depth will be the question. So far, so good from a health standpoint that we're aware of. I think those are a couple of things to watch overall if you are UCF and what's keeping them there. You look at the Big 12, though, right now, who is the team to beat? Texas Tech took a big step tonight. They thumped Utah in a very physical football game up in Salt Lake. Thought that was very impressive by Texas Tech, the team that, quote, best money team money can buy. That's going to be the ultimate test. And they have certainly done that. Off to a good start there with their backup quarterback, no less. They won that game going along. Iowa State seems to find ways to win games. We'll see. I'm not convinced necessarily they're one of the two best teams. We'll see. But this league's competitive. This league's got depth, and we'll see what happens with that. So a lot of football to go. We'll see how it plays out. But certainly positive steps taken. But I still don't know this offense is an offense. Will it scare people when it matters? Who knows? Excuse me. That remains to be seen on that. So it'll be fun. It'll be fun to see, though. We're, I think, in good shape. That's a good win. You take the win. I thought it was nice for a change to get good weather on the football side. I think that's a big positive. So we'll see how it goes. All right. Thoughts on defensively. I don't hear any complaints about the defensive side with Alex Golish right now, though. Is this the best defense UCF's had in the Big 12 era? I think it's clear. They do. They're much more disciplined. At least the scheme is working. It seems to be all a fit. And I think that's a big positive, is this defense seems to give you chances, and it starts up front. This defensive line, we said it before the season, is the defense that – what's the defense that's going to carry this team? It's the defense that should be the strength of this football team. And it has been to this point. Again, I think the competition will get better, so I'm not going to get too crazy about it. But I do think you got to be pleased from where this team was against Jacksonville State to where this team is now. They're improved. And I think that's a good positive sign, a very positive sign. And I think that's something to be very encouraged, overall from that. And so we'll see. We'll see what happens. And this is a team in UCF that certainly has a chance to be, I think, a bowl team at this point. Let's look at this schedule. You got Kansas State next week in Manhattan. We don't know what that Kansas State team is going to show up. They have obviously been a big disappointment this season. I think there are serious questions there. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. It's going to be interesting. You got a shot to maybe steal a road game. That's the other thing. This team hasn't played a road game yet. We got to see how they play on the road. But Kansas State, Certainly it's a possibility. Noon kick. West Virginia, of course, without their star running back. Out for the year. You're at home. You got them at home. That's winnable. Oklahoma State, certainly very winnable. Oklahoma State, I think, is the worst team in the Big 12 right now. They lost to Tulsa last night. So if you take care of some business there, I think this team will definitely get to a bowl. I don't think that's an issue. The question is, can you get to 7? Can you get to 8 wins? Kansas State, I still think it's a tricky game going to Manhattan. I think UCF needs to get off to a good start in that game. Have that crowd maybe turn against its own team. We'll see. Kansas, I think it's still pretty good with Daniels at quarterback. I think that'll be the best offense UCF has seen to that point. Overall, Texas Tech, it's going to be rough. Going up to Lubbock, it's going to be rough going to Provo against BYU later in the year. But, we'll see what happens. Matt J with a comment here. DJ Black, what a way to start the game. No doubt. Was fantastic. He was incredible. And I think we're starting to see some of these players stepping up. And I think that's the key as each game plays out. Comments here. Quote, wow, I was hopeful, not hopeful before the season. Let's see. Penalty. Yeah, penalties are penalties. I mean, you like to clean that up, but it is what it is. I was not hopeful for this season, but this was an impressive win. UNC has a long way to go. Defense swarmed. Jackson looked very solid. Yeah, I think I've said this for the last couple of weeks. Jackson's your guy. I never believed in 1 second that Cam Fancher was going to get his rollback. And I liked how they added Ja'Carri Brown in the offense. Got that 4th down play in the 4th quarter in that lengthy marathon drive. I like that little wrinkle into the offense. I think there's some things they could certainly massage there a little better, but I agree. I think that was a good deal. Let's see what else we got here. Michael White, dominating performance, but the O-line has a long ways to go for too many penalties and absolutely struggling to open holes for the running game. It is definitely something that I am very curious to see how the offensive line does, and that running game is going to have to get better once the competition gets better. And I think, and again, it even starts next week on the road. You're going to have to run the ball on the road. Going to have to run the ball better on the road. You might get away with it. Like, I'm sorry, but Gio Lopez was an awful, just terrible starting quarterback. I don't understand why he is like that's what I mean about my opening monologue. You got to be encouraged from this standpoint. Scott Frost, just like Bill Belichick, brand new team, 70 new players. So basically, you're picking, from out there, the portal, and scout and developing it. And I think if you watch that game, UCF has the better personnel. Yes, some of the players that did stay, much better than what North Carolina has, but excuse me. I think Scott Frost and his staff did a much better job of picking out a roster than Bill Belichick and his staff is the 33rd NFL franchise, as he likes to call it. I think Bill Belichick is done. He's washed up, and I think we're seeing that this year. I don't think he's there for the long haul, and in North Carolina, and UCF took advantage of that. Matt J coming in. I like Ja'Cory, but he needs to show he can throw the ball beyond the line of scrimmage. Might as well run Wildcat because teams will just cram the box. Again, I think you massage that situation. There was no need to throw him the football today. You had the lead. I would wait till the moment is right when you throw the ball. I actually would like to use him in the red zone. I don't know if I would use him like early in drives. I would use him more in the red zone, maybe even short yardage packages. I think there's room there. There's room there to make something happen. But we'll see. Again, they're going to need him because I'm not so sure there's enough explosiveness out of this offense when it's all said and done when they're playing real competition. And I mean, when I mean real competition, I mean quality teams, teams that are actually good, teams that are actually you're worried about. You know, this defense, you can't expect this defense to hold teams to 9-10 points every game. It's not going to happen, not in the Big 12. So can you come up with explosive plays when you need to win a 38-31, 45-38 game? That's going to be the question. I don't know. And we don't know the answer to that. I don't think anybody does. Because again, I think you look at this, Carolina's a bad football team. It's a bad football team. And UCF took advantage of that, which was a very nice thing to see. You know, they didn't struggle with them. I thought they controlled the game. At no point did I feel UCF was at any risk in this game. Could they have made this thing a little wider? Maybe at the first half, but they did what they needed to do. But I don't know, you know, let's not act like this is the Roy Williams version of North Carolina men's basketball program, Final Four team or something like that. But it's a good win. You take the win, and I think you got to be pleased where you're headed. Long term, I don't know where this team is short term, but I think long term you feel better. I think each win you pick up, you will pick up more confidence in this staff as it goes. In theory, this should be Scott's worst team while he's here. It should get better each year. That's the theory. That's the plan. And today was a good step. Today was a very good step on that for Scott. And I think Scott needed that. And I'm sure he'll take pleasure. Well, he won't, but I think some people might. He won his game at 3:30 block while Nebraska, for all their yapping over there, lost again at home. Again, lost to Michigan. And I thought Spencer Tillman made the point during the broadcast. He's probably got more talent here in this UCF roster than he did at any point in Nebraska. It's facts. Maybe facts that Lincoln, Nebraska doesn't want to accept yet. But that's the facts. And we'll see. We'll see what happens there. We got some more comments coming in. We appreciate Eric Fist. I'm a little under the weather, as you can tell. That's why I'm at home. I was originally going to go to this game, but had a health rough week. I'm doing a little better, so definitely need you all to chime in with comments and questions. Help me get through a little bit, and that'll be a lot of fun, to say the least. But a good turnout here at North UCF. By the way, Kansas State noon FS1 tomorrow. Thank you, Matt. Yes, hopefully I'll feel better. About 75, 80%. I was in a bad shape 3 days ago. I was in really bad shape. Are you guys sold on Jackson? Are you sold? Like, where are we thinking here? 6, 7, 8, 9 wins? If your expectations going up? Are you just pleased you won? That's the question, certainly, that I'm sure some of you are certainly asking about. Looking elsewhere right now, by the way. I think Arizona State Baylor is going on right now, Big 12. It is going on right now up in Waco. Arizona State with a field goal here to go up early on Baylor in that key Big 12 game. Big 12 play, ready, you feel confident, ready to start. 3-0 ASU in that one. Yes, expectations. It looks like the majority feeling better about a bowl bid. Yeah, bowl. I would agree. I mean, 3 wins. Again, I'm not going to be one of those that's going to pick them to beat Kansas State. I think Kansas State, the question there is that team divided by now, or are they going to come together tomorrow? We shall see. I think Kansas at home is a tough game. So this thing could spin on you quickly. Cincinnati on the road, it's winnable. They're not any juggernaut. They're definitely not a juggernaut. Oklahoma State is definitely not a juggernaut. They are probably the easiest game left on the schedule. Houston's much improved. BYU's tough. Texas Tech's tough. I mean, I still think those are losses. I still think 6-6, 7-5. I'm still going to stick to that. Sir Epic with a comment. We'll stand by the idea that if we go bowling this season, it's a massive success. Anything beyond that is extra. Yeah, I think that's fair. It's year one. It's year one. You didn't know what you're getting in Scott. It's refamiliarize. 100% agree with that. 100% agree with that. That would be a success. Without question. At 4 UCF. Kansas State got a bye and has home field advantage. Agreed. If Kansas State's going to regroup and salvage this season, this game against UCF is the week to do it. I agree 100% with that. Just like I think UCF benefited, by the way. They had to bye against Carolina, so it kind of all plays out. But yeah, I think Kansas State will be a tough game. I'm still picking a loss. I would expect K-State to be a slight favorite still in that game. Mike with a comment. What up, E? Agree with you. Nice game, but a masterpiece from Frost today. He outcoached Bill. Yeah, I think so. Agreed. I agree. I think he had the better roster. I think he was smart. He was going to coach a game where he made sure he wasn't going to lose the game. His players weren't going to lose the game. They were going to win the game. He knew he had the better material. He had the better line of scrimmage. Didn't need to force anything. Agree with that. Nixon versus Miles. People, man, dogging Miles Montgomery. I will say this. I think Nixon's a more explosive player, but he's not as experienced. And I think there's still some intangible stuff that Miles does blocking-wise and everything. But I like both. I'm good with both. I am more than comfortable with both. Press conference, by the way, still going on right now between those two teams. In fact, I'm going to try to carry some of Scott Frost's presser here momentarily. So I'm going to see if I can make this work. Couple of minutes here. Joe P. Even in a primetime TV slot for Fox, the announcers were so bad, it felt like ESPN Plus. Yeah, that was weird. I was surprised Eric Collins and Tillman got that assignment for a 3:30 Fox game. They're like their number 4, number 5 Fox team. So I was surprised by that. Not going to lie. I was but this game, the balloon out of this game really just left it left for a while. And I don't think it's going to draw a good rating at all. We'll see that in the coming days. All right. You see right there, that, ladies and gentlemen, is one Scott Frost.
I don't have much to say. I'm happy for our team. We had a lot of unfortunate things kind of happen around our UCF football family this week, and I thought everybody did a good job of staying focused while realizing that football isn't the most important thing in life. Faith and family are, and I thought everybody did a good job working through those things in the bye week and showing up ready to play.
Coach, you dominated for the first quarter, but how big was that touchdown at the end of the first half, that 83-yard drive, because you knew North Carolina was going to get the ball to start the second half? How big was that to give you a little bit of a cushion?
It was really big. made it a whole different game to be able to score there. First of all, holding them to a field goal on the other side, and then using timeouts. And thought Taven had an excellent drive on that. He took what they gave him. Then they busted a coverage at the end that gave us a touchdown. But we got the benefit of a couple penalties there too. But it's like I got 3 young kids, right? And sometimes they amaze me with what they can do, and other times I'm like, what the heck are you doing? And that's, we're growing as a team. That's what I feel like. There's a lot of really good with the 2-minute drive, the way we started the game, and there's still some things that make me scratch my head. But that's comforting in a way because we can keep getting better.
Scott, what do you think you guys learned today, getting the win and beating a team like North Carolina?
Learning that we've come a long way, but we have a long way to go. That's what I want our team to take away, and I think they will. We're a lot better team than we were against Jacksonville State, but we're going to have to be a better team than what we were tonight to go to Manhattan and win. And I think it's just going to get tougher from there. So we got to keep pushing forward and rising and conquering.
Coach, on Monday you mentioned how intelligent you found Bill Belichick to be, had the extra week leading up to prepare. How much do you think that helped you get the result that you did leading into this game?
I don't know. Our offensive staff did a great job. Steve Cooper and, I want to say a lot about Alex Bear taking over for Coach Clark and keeping the O-lineman going. We got in the game, and it was a little different than what we expected, which is kind of what we expected. He's as smart a guy as there is, and Steve's smart too. And, it was just little things here and there. Every time we got in condensed sets, they were really coming after us, and we kind of got lucky on a couple and got the ball outside it. But, when we thought it was man, sometimes they had eyes inside and cost us a couple plays where they got us. So I a ton of respect for Bill and North Carolina, and they're starting fresh like we were. So I know they'll keep getting better, and he's the right guy for that.
Coach, other side of the ball defensively, created a couple of turnovers, kept pressure on the quarterback all night long. What did you like most about your defense's pressure tonight?
I really like the intensity our defense came out with to start the game. Good thing on that side of the ball, we got a lot of guys that can make game-changing plays and impact the game. I want to highlight, as good as the pass rush was, Lewis Carter had a heck of a game coming back off suspension. I think 10 tackles and 2 TFLs and a sack. But that he's one of many, I think, played well on defense. We can't jump off sides on third downs and hard counts anymore. We can't play as well as we played and then go out and lose our intensity for a drive. Kind of felt like on the one drive we might have. But overall, I can't say enough about the job Coach Grinch did and has done. He's got a chip on his shoulder like I do, and he wants to be great. And I think you're starting to see what he can do with the defense. But again, we've kind of done what we should do to this point, and the challenges are going to get tougher.
Coach, talk about your quarterback play. Taven played a good game, turnover-free, kind of took what the defense gave him, just kind of overview of how he played today.
Taven made some plays that a lot of people might not notice, with blitzes coming off edges and hanging on the ball and throwing it over their head and seeing some things that maybe weren't first on his progression and getting the ball to him. He made some really good quarterback plays today. That being said, we got some good players, and Jakari, when he goes in there, is a spark plug for us, and we got to keep finding the right formula every week. But I'm really impressed and happy with the progress that Taven's made, and he can be a great player if he stays on that path.
Scott, 2-part question about the tight ends. First, the status of Dylan Wade after the injury in the third quarter, and secondly, the way you guys are using multiple players at that position throughout the course of the game between him, Kylan, and then for the first time today, Caden Keegan.
Yeah, compliment our recruiting guys, Jeff Love and others that did a good job getting us some talent. Dylan's going to be all right. He had a little bit of a separated shoulder, so he's going to be fine. But we held him, and mostly we held him because we trust Caden and Kylan and Wadsworth and Max Strike. And we got a little bit of depth there, so we don't have to completely change what we're doing if somebody gets nicked out.
Coach, does it mean any more to be a coach like Belichick, Coach Belichick?
Yeah, I think it does to me personally, and that's no knock on him. That's respect to him for everything he's accomplished. But, he was my position coach and coordinator for 2 years, my first 2 years in the NFL. I know how smart he is and how good a coach he is. This isn't all on him. When you take over a new program in college right now, I did it too. It just takes a while to get the team together, and I feel like we got a little head start on it, getting here a little earlier and maybe getting involved in the portal earlier. It means a lot to me to win for these guys, but I got so much respect and admiration for Coach Belichick, and he's going to get them going. There's just no question.
Also, I know it's a tough subject, but did you talk to your team at all today about Coach Clark and being with you guys?
Yeah, we feel like honesty is the best policy, and we've had open dialogue about what's going on with Coach Clark really for a week and a half. So we'll keep updating the guys while at the same time respecting the privacy of his wife and kids.
Coach, Tatum Jackson showed quite a bit of misdirection during the game. Is that something that's kind of a new wrinkle to his game, or is that something you've been seeing in practice?
Somewhat. Sorry.
You've been showing misdirection, on especially his touchdown run. Is that something that is a new wrinkle to his game, or something that you've been seeing in practice?
No, Taven can run. It's funny when you have a guy like Jakari, sometimes he thinks he needs to throw it because he's such a good runner and he needs to prove he can throw it. And Taven thinks he needs to run it to prove he can run it because he throws it really good. And I just want those guys to be them, And if we have plays for Jakari going forward, we want Taven to be able to run them, and whatever Taven's running, we want Jakari to be able to run, and Cam. And I really like all three of those kids, and you can see why we were impressed with all three in camp.
Scott, just with so many new players and a new coaching staff and the way the season started, to have this performance against that type of opponent as you head into conference, what can this do for this group that's still trying to climb the mountain?
Well, momentum's a powerful thing, but like I said, I don't want our kids to think we've done anything. We haven't done anything yet. We kind of started the way we probably should have started, with the hands that were dealt to us, and it's going to get a lot harder from here. I coached in Manhattan, Kansas, my first coaching job. I know what kind of environment that is. Coached with Coach Kleiman, I know what kind of coach he is. They have a bye week now, and that's going to be a huge challenge. And we got to keep getting better if we're going to have a chance to win up there. So this is just the start.
And just afternoon game in the bounce house, finally didn't have to deal with weather, national TV, just that experience. Was this kind of what you were looking forward to when you came back?
Yeah, it is. I just have fun coaching here. There's pressure like anywhere else, but it's not the same. It allows me to be better because I can just be free to care about the kids and try to put them in the best position to be successful. And I thank Terry and everybody else for moving me back here. It's a lot of fun.
Scott, as a coach, how does it make you feel to finish off a game with a 19-play drive, takes over 10 minutes, kind of puts the game away out of hand at the end? What does that, as a coach, how does that make you feel? Does that bring a smile to your face and think about being that efficient, being able to put the game away when you need to do?
Yeah, going back to my reference about my kids, the 2-minute drive was awesome. And that last drive was awesome, even, buckling down and getting a fourth down. And they got some big players now. So for us to be able to sustain it on the ground for a long drive at the end speaks to us getting better at execution. There's some other drives, we look like a 3-ring circus out there dropping balls, and putting our knee down on things, and we can still get better, I guess is my point. But I think the offensive line really played with some passion today, a lot because they love Coach Clark like I do, and they wanted to fight for him, and I think that was a great way to finish off the game for those guys, and an unbelievable job sustaining that drive.
Coach, can you talk about the intensity you guys came out with, particularly like in the first quarter? Who goes into that halfway?
The guys were just ready to play. Assistant coaches did a great job getting them ready, and the guys were ready. We've had 2 broken warm-ups, weird warm-ups for the first 2 games. This was kind of normal, or what will become normal. And, I don't know what led to the hot start for sure, but we need to try to duplicate it.
Back on Shakari, what do you most like about what he brings to your offense?
Well, first and foremost, I can't say enough about him as a human being. Jakari is just awesome to have in our program. He's a leader. You know, if he has to take a bunch of plays for us, I'm gonna feel great about it. And if he can keep providing us a spark, we're gonna keep finding ways to let him do that.
A few more.
Coach, you talked about the chip on your shoulder. You've been talking about the chip that your team has. Can you tell there's an edge to this thing?
Yeah, you know, this is only my third season coaching at UCF, but I've been around Coach Beckton a lot and Travis Fisher a lot, and that kind of seems like the MO for UCF, going a long way back. That little disrespected. You know, we're not Central Florida, we're UCF. You know, people picking us last. You know, not having any confidence in several people on the coaching staff, and like I said, we haven't done anything yet, but I think it fits with what UCF has been for a long time. If we play with a little chip.
Robbie Moore got to be one of the captains today. I know he played for North Carolina all the way through spring. What's he meant to the rotation as far as since joining your program, and what was his reaction once he found out that he was going to be in that role today?
You'll get a lot of emotion out of Rodney most of the time. He's a pretty steady guy. I love him. He's been an important piece for us, and it's really been a 4-man rotation inside with Horace and RJ and him and John. And if we can keep those guys healthy and they keep getting better, they can be a real force for us.
Keeping with edge and big guys in the middle on defense, they were able to get a push in the middle early on. North Carolina started booting, running to the outside. How do you feel about how the defense adjusted to make sure that they kept a few points off the board throughout the game?
Yeah, most of football comes down to if you can win the trenches or not, and we're going to get challenged in that in the Big Ten, as good as offensive and defensive lines are in the Big Ten. But I feel like we probably won that battle tonight.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right, that was Scott Frost in the presser talking about that victory right there. Did he just say Big Ten, by the way? Did he say Big Ten? Or is that the medicine that I'm on taking over at the end there? Not sure if he misspoke there. I think he may have misspoken. All right, UCF 34-9. Let's see. We're getting set. UCF Kansas State next week, noon Eastern and Manhattan. Hopefully they'll be a lot healthier by then. Kyle should be joining us. I think they just wrapped up the pressers a few minutes ago, so he should be making his way. If he's going to wait for Bill Belichick, then that could be a long wait. I believe they're doing it separate pressers. Mr. Brian W. Peterson, thank you, sir, by the way, for filling in. As you can tell, not 100% health. You were helping out with that. Yeah, he said Big Ten. Okay. That's what I thought. What was that? Nobody caught him on that one. Nobody corrected him. Yeah, Big Ten. Maybe there's realignment news. Did I miss realignment news this week? We're in the Big Ten. Obviously, a Freudian slip there. Let's see. Kansas State. Well, they probably planning on dropping 7 or 8, daring UCF to run the ball consistently. We'll see. Let's see what the gamesmanship. Look, that's that. UCF's running game certainly a concern. They got to run the football. Jackson's your quarterback's your leading rusher is not the most ideal thing. They're not getting the push from the offensive line in that regard. But we'll see what Kyle has to say. Hopefully Kyle joins us. I mean, I've killed a good enough time here where he should be joining us really soon. Let's see. But Brian Peterson is getting more and more worried about the running game. Yeah. I agree. I would say when you play real competition, you're going to have to run the ball better and push people around better. But you're 3-0. And I think if I would have asked you or told you back in July, August, would you take 3-0, including a 34-9 win over North Carolina? The answer is yes. I think you take it. You would have said absolutely. So I think that's the good news is you hope to improve on that. I don't know if this team has got another ceiling on it that could take it to a different level. But I do think it's good enough to get a bowl win, a bowl game. And you got to feel good about the defense. When's the last time that you feel pretty good about watching your defense play, where you felt confident they could get a stop, where they could win this game? To me, they had control of this game. And Alex Grinch has done a very nice job with that defense right now. And I don't see anybody questioning that hire right now. Like, say what you will. You can't question it. I guarantee you this. Over there in North Carolina sites, they're going to be questioning Bill Belichick's hires. They're going to be questioning Freddie Kitchen as an offensive coordinator hire. They're going to be questioning Bill Belichick's son running the defense. They're going to question all that. Rightfully so. You can't question right now UCF's hire of Alex Grinch to this point. But they're going to play better teams, and they're going to play specifically better offenses. Elo, what outside of the O-line needs work? We'll get into that a little bit. Kyle Nash is setting his equipment up, so he'll be joining us here in a couple of seconds. Once I see him straighten it out, I will put him on stage and see what he has to react to on this game. All right, let's bring him in here. Let's see, or at least I'm going to try to bring him in. All right. Let's see here. Let's see if we can add him in. Kyle's still working on it. We're going to try to get him on here shortly. All right, you give me a thumbs up, Kyle, when you're ready. Oh, he thumbs up. Okay. There he is.
What's going on, Eric? Good to see you, Elo. How you feeling?
Doing good. Trying to make sure how we get. There we are. Now we got both of us in.
You gotta love technology. You're on mute, but while you get going, listen, I'll get one thing off the bat here up front. The one thing reiterated throughout post game was how much Coach Clark, Sean Clark, the offensive line coach, was in the thoughts for all the players. Just the repeated cries and calls, even from Nigel Lee Kelly on the defense, that they wanted to dedicate this win to him. Obviously, one that's going to be at least loosely remarkable for the season, if not beyond UCF history, right? That time UCF beat Bill Belichick at the Bounce House, right? So they're dedicating that to Coach Clark. And even Coach Frost said over and above the tributes to Coach Clark, it meant a little more playing and winning against somebody with Coach Belichick's name for certain.
Yeah, I agree. Look, UCF was better in both line of the scrimmages. The trenches, D-line, especially the D-line over North Carolina's offensive line. That was a mismatch. I said this in the open, Kyle. If you're UCF, here's why you're feeling good. You feel good about your hire of your head coach, whereas if I'm a Tar Heel right now, if I'm a Tar Heel alum or fan, I don't feel good about my hire at all. Because – listen, and you could talk about, hey, Bill Belichick's got a new race, just taking over. Scott Frost is taking over this UCF program. Both have 70 new players on their roster, and both got to pick their quarterbacks. UCF's better. UCF's got the better quarterback. Now, Scott has to thank the previous staff in that the previous staff left them a pretty good talent up front in that front side. But Alex Grinch has done a nice job. They were the better team, better coach team. And I think if you're UCF long-term, you're thinking maybe we made the right hire. And you know what? We're not them, because I don't see North Carolina being successful if Bill doesn't change his ways with a lot of his things. Like Gio Lopez has no business being a Division I quarterback anywhere, let alone in North Carolina. But that's their problem, not UCF's problem. What's your thoughts, your reaction on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's an element, and I don't, obviously we say that, Scott Frost had to come in anew as well. I think it's a little different when you're Coach Frost and you're in the state that's one of the hotbeds of recruiting versus North Carolina, right? And I'm not sure what kind of, obviously being an ACC school, North Carolina has more fiscal backing for sure. But I think a big part of it being, you mentioned it earlier, how active the recruiting process remained in between, right? This is where not only Terry Mohajir was working the phones himself, keeping recruits in the building. Let's give big ups to not only the guy whose unit kicked the most butt, in my opinion, again for this team on the field, but Coach Kenny Martin remaining on staff, being the only sole member of the incumbent staff to stay aboard, to work some of the guys. We've heard you had an element of it when we talked about your efforts and along with Don Struble at Media Day. Bing! When you guys were talking to players and said that Coach Martin was a big part. Some of them stayed when there was turmoil for what returners there were, right? So I think that element worked better. Whereas with Belichick, I don't know that he had that luxury, and then not to mention there's so many other distractions around him, coming off of the NFL ranks and, emerging from retirement and all that and all the, well, I won't get too much into the tabloid elements, but I'm sure a lot of you people would have seen the signs out there if there were, let's say, a college game day or a big noon kickoff kind of scenario here, all the jokes surrounding that situation. I don't want to dig for gold there, nor do I wish for that to be central to my point. But that I think that element was different too. Whereas Scott Frost didn't bring distraction with him, but praise and elation in a way that could have only electrified this fan base if Scott Frost came back here, right? So, yeah, there's elements that they're similar, but the situations I have to point out, Eric, are completely different in those facets.
Now, we got a special guest here in the press box here, Kyle. I'm going to let you do the introduction because I want to make sure I get the technology part right here.
Yeah, absolutely. And so normally I'm here with Donnie Docks, but tonight, since he's on assignment, Stephen Brown coming in off the top rope did a great job running the stream on the Black and Gold Banneret during the game, by the way, with the 24 live feed there. But joined us here and was with me during the press conference, asked some key questions. And actually, I'm going to throw one to him here that he asked about. Steve observed throughout the game that Taven Jackson was running the ball a lot of option plays. And Eric, during the game, you and I were texting about maybe the idea was to manage the game, but there was some let's say, intelligent play run through that. And Steve, talk about a bit what you observed. What did you see with Taven Jackson running the ball in particular tonight?
Yeah, it was really impressive what he was able to do, especially against a defense led by a Belichick. It's not the Belichick, but nonetheless, Steve Belichick does a great job with that defense. And Taven talked a little bit about it in the post-game press conference. There were some similarities to what he saw when Steve was at Washington. But yeah, really got involved with the running game. Those options just completely had the defense fooled. There were times when he pulled that ball down and he didn't get touched for 20 yards.
I even lost the ball down on the field from the press box on at least one of them. I had no idea where Taven ended up. It was crazy. So yeah, you're definitely onto something there. And Eric, that was you were talking about the run game there too. Perhaps my favorite play call of the day was the Kylan Fox touchdown. And I asked him a bit about it. He had thrown tribute to the receiver who had turned to position himself like he was getting ready to make a screen catch. But I pointed out to him, and he agreed that that's not successful unless he's blocking well throughout the game and those DBs feel like they have to crash down on the screen.
Well, let me ask you about the offensive line. There's some questions, obviously, that's been chatted about, Taven Jackson only leading the team in rushing with 66 yards. Some people wondering, is the issue the offensive line? Is it Miles Montgomery? Is it a combination of things there? My thing is some of them are probably a little spoiled by the previous regime's running back schemes that really was a friendly running back scheme and a friendly offensive line scheme, some of that. But I do have questions about their running game on the road as we move forward. But what did you see?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, I know that. Listen, you mentioned spoiled. I think that's too strong a word, but you have a right idea. I think the standards are made higher by the fact that you have previously parted ways with a 1,600-yard rusher and a completely revamped, for the most part, offensive line, one returning starter, right? And if you haven't seen improvement from then between week one and game three here, I don't know what to tell you. A lot of the parts where the O-line did play less than great, it was another situation, again, I have to point out, where they sent more guys than they had, right? It was some particular run blitzes, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you perfect play, but what I will come from, and it kind of matches to your point, Eric, about dominating in the trenches the way that they did. I don't know why I don't mean to sound like Brian Kelly. What do you mean we couldn't do this? What are you talking about? Yes, there were some plays that didn't go great, but what I would reiterate is you're in a scenario where the most dominance you've had in the trenches is against a power conference team. Now, is that more about North Carolina than it is about UCF? Perhaps. Could Jacksonville State beat North Carolina? Quite possibly. But to see the evolution is huge. And frankly, the questions I have, if we're talking trench warfare questions, is more not on the other side. But Kyle, the defensive tackles were great. They were. But the edge made adjustments. The bootleg was working for a minute. And I asked Nigel Lee Kelly about that after the game. And his response upon seeing the boot during the game was he felt respected, that defensive front was being accounted for by having to boot the quarterback that often. Now, eventually they did adjust. North Carolina did only put 9 points on the board. So that's kind of the tough part about this gig is you got to find something to talk about and sort of nitpick to critique in a game like this. But this is another scenario, Eric, where I feel like we're watching a team win and learn at the same time, which is the best kind of learning, which is technically correct.
Listen, we said this before the season. This isn't going to be a defensive team first. That's going to be offense. This is not an offensive juggernaut team. It's just not. It's not going to be the pretty, 2, 3, 4 plays. At least not until, maybe later in the year, if at all. If it does happen, it's just going to take a while. I think you got a quarterback still learning. You got an offensive line still learning each other. You got a lot of, and for example, I like Miles Montgomery.
Yeah.
But he's not a home run hitter like a RJ Harvey, obviously, who, by the way, got drafted in the second round of the NFL draft. So
correct,
who is?
Right? Yeah. What I would add to that, too, is also Miles has hit home runs, right? The issue is you aren't going to find them on the stat sheet because penalties have called 2 touchdowns back, 1 per game previously. Sure. Miles Montgomery has scored every game. It just stayed on the scoreboard this time, right? We have to remember that part of it too. So Miles has hit some home runs, but I think the difference is coaches here, right? And by the way, for the first thing, this offense is not explosive. However, I think a lot of UCF fans would agree, and I'm saying this as the Gus Malzahn defender too often here on this podcast, it's certainly more explosive than last year. We have to at least capitulate that. For better word,
it depends what your definition of that is. What is
also correct?
Because there's a lot of ways, I would say Gus's offense was more explosive, but it was also more bust. There wasn't the consistency like where Scott, boy, there's some good drives there. And the thing I've always liked about Scott's going to go to whatever tempo he needs to go to win the game.
That is correct. Yes.
Like he was not going to be in a rush. He knew the defense was playing well. I don't need to go crazy on my play calling. I don't need to do gadget plays. I'm going to run my stuff. And if it means we're going to go 13 plays and 6, 7, my God, Kyle, Steven, what was that drive in that fourth quarter? It took the entire fourth quarter out.
I think it was almost 10 minutes.
Yeah, correct. We went downstairs and they were still on the field, Steve, right?
Yes, they were.
And I think that's what's been missing in a way from Gus's offense over the last.
That's consistency, to your point, Eric.
Right. Whereas Gus's offense, Harvey could break one for 70 yards, but then, the next 10, 20 plays, you get nothing, right?
Well, and let me tell you this. This is what I mean by explosive, Eric. Sure. And, of course, RJ's an explosive player. As you said, he's doing great with the Denver Broncos. I'm sure I'll be talking about him some point soon on the Bolt Blitz Uncut when the Chargers playing him here on Saturday. Bing! But that all being said, I have to point out any player on this field that Scott Frost has can create a big play. It's not just RJ Harvey. Nobody else on that field except for maybe Xavier Townsend, who did not finish the year, and except for perhaps Kobe Hudson, who was limited by injury most of the time and wasn't going to make an explosive play because the quarterbacks couldn't get him the ball, right? In this offense, so many guys can be explosive. And first and foremost, I'm not here to say they have the quarterback right, but they've darn sure improved the position, and that's what this offense needed first.
And kind of to your point, Kyle, I'm looking at the stat sheet here. 9 different receivers caught a pass for UCF. So last year it was RJ Harvey, and then you could sprinkle in, some of the other offensive weapons.
Jacoby, which
Yeah.
I never realized is a thing, but yeah, the Jacoby thing. But most fans could not name 9 UCF receivers without looking it up from last year. I don't know that I can.
No, it's a great point, though, Scott. Even going back to the first time around here, spread the ball around.
Correct.
Spread the ball around. Spread it to your different guys. And so you're not – I don't expect to see a guy get 1,600 yards on the ground. It shouldn't happen. Like, it really – I think he'll spread it. And Nixon's got to grow a little bit more. I think there's some pass protection stuff that keeps him off the field a little bit, whereas Montgomery's a great pass blocker.
He's a great everywhere blocker. I think he had another key block for a touchdown again today, man. But like I said earlier with Kylan's play for the touchdown, if you're not blocking credibly, if no block, no rock isn't a thing in this Cooper offense, in this Sean Beckton offense, in this Scott Frott offense, I mean, I guess I have to mention McKenzie, in this McKenzie Milton offense, in this Sean Clark offense, I don't know what is, man. This is what we've seen, and that's what makes these screenplays work. That's what made Kylan Fox's touchdown play work.
Tight ends being used. How about that?
Brilliant.
It's wild stuff. Multiple guys, too.
And yet one transferred to follow him, but I digress. What we got in the comments, Eli?
I mean, they're doing all right over there, too. So, I mean, it might be a win-win for everybody. There's possibility. This could have been a win-win for everybody.
Hey, you aren't the only member of the Banneret that had a great day for more than one team, right? Jeff's Orange beat your boy Dabo over there in Clemson. It's crazy.
Wild times. Give me your thoughts overall on the receiving core. Steven, I'm curious from your vantage point. You mentioned all the different receivers that caught balls. Are you feeling more comfortable, more confident in the receiving core? And I think, by the way, we could all, can we stop, right? Jackson's the starting quarterback, right? Like, were people really still trying to push this, Cam Fetcher might start this game somehow? Whoever thought
Can we drop the or? Let's get rid of the or, please.
We know what the or nonsense. So it's all nonsense. They don't, here's a dirty secret. Most of these teams don't even update their depth charts in college football on game weeks. They just don't. So I never go by that. But how do you feel about the core of the receivers? Do you think we have enough?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Kind of on the theme going back to last year, it was Kobe Hudson, and that was basically it. Towards the end of the year, we saw the breakout of Jacoby Jones, and that was good to see that there were 2 receivers that could produce for UCF. But now with this core, this group, Taven couldn't stop talking about them in the post-game press conference. He was asked a few questions about the true freshman tight end. Kyle, I'm blanking on the name. If you can help me out, but
I think you're talking about Waylon Charles, and in particular, our friend Drew Glukov asked Taven Jackson about Waylon Charles, and it was a moment where it's one of those, as a press person, you hate getting a short answer, but the short answer Taven gave was perfect. He's going to be great one day. That's all I can say. Full point blank. When you have that kind of confidence from your quarterback as a freshman, who was smart enough, by the way, Eric, in that 2-minute drill at the end of the half that led to the Fox touchdown, to get out of bounds on his catch, to see that from a freshman, you got to love it.
Mm-hmm.
What more can be said, Eric?
Let me ask you about Brown, who got in, played. I know you're not a big fan of that, Kyle, bringing him in for certain packages. I don't mind it. I do think part of the reason they're bringing him in is they want added – he's a threat as a running back. They need more boost to the running game. He converted that 4th and 1 that they went for it, for example. I think it also protects you from Jackson taking more hits, which I don't like to see.
Right.
I do think they got to massage how they use him,
Right.
I'd like to see him more maybe in the red zone packages and short yardage instead of randomly bringing him in during the drive, which I think what you had a problem with was bringing him in kind of, randomly.
Yeah, we talked about this on the weekly pod for Night Shift, and I felt a certain element. Which, by the way, if you haven't checked out Frostbites yet on the blackandgoldbannerhead.com, bing, I mentioned it there too. There's the element going into this week. Now, credit to Scott Frost. When I asked him about the extra week of preparation, he kind of shook me off, and I don't feel dissed by it. But don't tell me it wasn't a factor in the preparation, guys, right? It's an element of, I feel like, and he mentioned it Monday, Coach Frost, about how intelligent Belichick is and how he couldn't get over how intelligent he was, and just so many more props about how smart Coach Belichick is. And that's what impressed Coach Frost about him most. The piece that I would add is going into this, in that first part of the play calling series, those are scripted, right? We're going into things that we've prepared. Here's our first 8, 10, 15, 20, however many plays, right? Now, you'll notice Jakari came off the field once the false start happened and there was a longer second down, right? So that kind of killed the script. But it was in those scripted plays that UCF won the game, right? You put a team in North Carolina that can't play out of a hole in a big one early, right? 3 score. By the way, who had 17-0 on the bingo card at one point in the game? Sure, not me. I'll be honest. I thought North Carolina was going to cover, but UCF would win. Well, at least I got half of it right. Sorry for those of you that bet that. But, I think there's that element where playing the quarterback minutia, having the extra week to prepare, throwing a change of quarterback early during those scripted plays to try to throw off a group that's getting used to the tempo of the game early on defense. He was trying to Belichick, where Belichick on defense was trying to attack Taven Jackson, trying to blitz the young quarterback. And it worked on occasion. But what else worked was Taven Jackson making reads and checking down and big plays being made. Taven Jackson showing that poise we've been talking about, Eric, standing in the pocket, delivering, finding the right guy. Granted, there were a few balls that were dropped. This is college. These things happen. But listen, I'm not here to say they beat Kansas State, but I'm a lot more confident now in them doing that as a possibility than I was before, especially with how they played tonight and the way we've seen some chinks in the potential armor of the Kansas State Wildcats.
Well, that's an interesting game. That's a noon kick next week, FS1. It's interesting because Kansas State's been a big disappointment. They lost to Army. They lost to Iowa State in Dublin, Ireland, and seem to have never returned from Dublin.
There's no shame to losing to Coach Matt Campbell. Let's lead with that. But, I think it's the other ones we're worried about.
They had a bye week, and I'm curious to see how Coach Kleiman, do they come together and try to salvage this season, or are they apart? We're going to find that out next Saturday with Kansas State. They did get to watch UCF on film, so I think they'll be ready to play for that. What do you guys think needs to improve from UCF, both of you, for that game and beyond?
I can go ahead and start and say that it's pretty easy to answer this one. They kind of answered it in the post game for us. Penalties. I mean, there was the 4th and 5 Najee Kelly false start that just gave him the free first down. A couple holdings that kind of slowed the drives down. There were a couple that they were able to overcome, but I mean, just you gotta stop shooting yourself in the foot. You gotta put yourself in a position to win football games, and penalties take you out of that position. So they emphasize, I think literally every Coach Frost, all the players that went up and spoke, I think every single one of them said, we have to clean up the penalties.
I can confirm. Yes. 100%. This is a thing that happened. Yes. Well, yeah, if you're done, Steve, but what I'll add to that is this. I know the last time that the Knights were in Manhattan, they were drilled on the ground. Now, granted, DJ Gittard no longer there. Avery Johnson, the quarterback, instead of Will Howard this time. A few things are obviously different with that. This linebacker core is going to get tested against Kansas State. To your point that we were talking about in our chatter during the game, Eric, this is a group that's going to have a better offensive line. You cannot depend entirely on Horace Lockett, on Rodney, on John Walker, on RJ. on those guys up front in the middle to get that same penetration, right? Nigel Kelly, Malachi Lawrence, they're going to be tested. Kelly Lawson and the linebackers have to do their job. They can't get tore up by tight ends. That's got to be a thing they fix compared to the last time they were in Manhattan. Now, granted, one could argue they have a better quarterback situation as well as their starter is still healthy. Wait, but Cam Fancher's hurt. No, Taven Jackson's still healthy, right? And I think from that standpoint, UCF is in a better position this year than they were that last trip to Manhattan.
I will point this out, though. This will be UCF's first road game
Of the year, correct.
You know what I mean? Like, I remember a couple of years ago.
That's been a factor. Yeah, you're right.
I think and I thought Scott said it in the press, where we played Scott's press conference before you guys came on. He knows it's going to get a lot tougher now.
Yeah.
With respect, whatever you think of North Carolina, outside of Oklahoma State, unfortunately, Kyle, because I think the Mike Gundy thing, that thing is the wheels are just off. To me, they're the worst team in the Big 12 right now. I mean,
the mullet is about to be cut. I hear you, buddy.
Yeah. yes. Very good. Wow, that was good. It was really good. Where's the headliners? The Tulsa World. Use Kyle's for copyrights on that.
Hey, just tweet it at me. It's cool. I'm not even going to charge you.
I would argue, other than that team, that's the only team I can think of that North Carolina is going to be better than whoever that's on UCF's remaining schedule. Like, now you want to say, well, Kansas State's not that. When I think Kansas State's that's a chemistry issue.
I agree.
I still think there's talent. I still have too much respect for that coaching staff in Manhattan.
And Avery Johnson lost so much, right? So many veteran linemen. DJ Gittard, who's now an NFL running back now.
Correct.
Right, all of that.
But I'm curious we're going to know early in that Kansas State game if Kansas State shows up to play or not. Are they coming together or they've come apart? We're going to know early in that game. And I think that's why UCF has to get off to a good start on the road. Don't fall behind. I'm not sold this team against a quality opponent, especially on the road, can come from behind.
From their perspective, UCF could be a galvanizing moment. That's what they're going to try to do. Yeah, I agree.
Exactly. So it's going to get a lot tougher. And I do, to your point, my question I still have is, can this team is this a team that can win a 38-35 game if they have to? Or is this a team that has to win a certain way, which is the defensive line has to control the game? 24, are we a 24-17 team? Is what I'm, and again, it's only 3 games in, but this defense has done its job through 3 games. And I'm not a big fan of the opponents they've played, but I can't think of too many assignments missed as far as, other than the penalty that Steven, you brought up about, that's one thing, but I'm talking about, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Kyle, on this. I feel like the defensive players have been positioned where they were supposed to be, I would say 90-95% of the time. Is that accurate?
Sure, I see that too. I think Steve would agree as well.
I don't think it's been that high in the previous couple of years in comparison.
Yeah, they feel more organized. They feel more organized defensively than offensively, which does feel weird to say. Yeah, I'm with that.
I mean, it would be great if UCF could go out there and keep up in a shootout. But if they keep playing like the way they have been, then they don't have to. If they can clean up those penalties, then they would have gotten it's not just penalties too, just little things. Taven took credit for 3 of the points given up because he didn't stick the ball out.
Or rather, he held it against himself. Yeah.
So that gave how much Belichick loves field position. So he got good field position off that punt and was able to get 3. So the offense played great today, which is good. But I think that the Knights can continue to rely on their defense to keep them in the games.
Yeah, Coach Frost definitely mentioned the duality. I'm not going to go full grade, Steve. I will say they played good. Now, how good I think they played, you could check out Making the Grade here after I get done here on Night Shift, bing, on the Black and Gold Banneret.com. But you'll definitely see that I'm very happy with the defense. I'm still kind of evaluating the offense in my mind, and that's part of what I'll be doing when I'm wrapping up writing, going up there too. But I have to say they outperformed my expectation despite the simplicity of the game plan. This O-line has held together. I didn't think they'd be bad, but they're better than I thought. This receiver core is just as explosive and fast as promised. The running game has been good, and I am thoroughly impressed with what I've seen from Taven Jackson so far. But your statement about the defense, Elo, I think tracks to the offense. Most of the time, maybe not 95, 90%, but more like 75, 80, they've been where they're supposed to be. And let's be honest, with no disrespect to Cam Fancher, it would be very difficult to put him back at the helm to start in Manhattan on the road like that.
No, stop. It's not going to happen. Like, what are we doing?
I just want to be a little nicer than you, Elo. That's all. You can be the bad cop. That's fine.
Let me ask you this: are you both? And I don't, listen. I'm under I've had some Dayquil, so I'm not going to pretend I remember our preseason.
Yeah, I appreciate you playing hurt. By the way, I meant to say, good job playing hurt so far tonight, my guy. I appreciate you very much.
I appreciate you both. Thanks, Steve. You picking up the baton. Thank you.
Absolutely.
On that.
How often does the third stringer play this good as Steve Brown does tonight? That's what I'm saying.
Come on.
Well, clearly we have more.
Look who Sonny Bono is. No, wait, not Sonny Bono. Steve Bono. See what I did there?
I
Former
got you, babe.
49er.
Bono.
That'll
Yeah,
throw
there
his
you
bag.
go.
You got me,
Steve
babe.
Bono.
That's right.
What was your prediction before the season? I think, Kyle, you and I were in that 6-6 range, right?
Right, and I did have a 3-0 Knights team.
Steven?
I was also right there. I did have us beaten UNC, but I think I was also kind of right around there on the 6-6 record. But that was, I also said that, my thoughts on Kansas State before the season are a lot different than they are now. So, and that's a game that I had Kansas State, taking us down. Things are changing. So,
are you saying you're up higher? Are you going higher now than 6?
I think I might. I think I'm gonna buy in on what Scott Frost has been doing so far. So I'm gonna officially change my 6-6 prediction to let's change it to 8 wins.
Look at this. He's been into so much sun in these pre-games. He's wearing his flip-flops, ladies and gentlemen.
Kyle, are you sticking with the 6-win ratio? Are you like Steven? Are you going higher?
No, I'm sticking with the 6 because I feel like at this point, this team has remained relatively healthy. To your point, Eric, they've been at home. To also your point, they did a great job in their scrimmage 2 weeks ago, right? Do you still feel like you know who this UCF team is? And the reason why you wording that question the way you did was so fantastic is it's only a matter of time before the shootout in question happens, right? I know Rocco is doing his thing over. That's Arizona State's guy, I believe, at quarterback. There's so many returning quarterbacks.
Rocco Beck is the Iowa State kid. You got the other kid from Arizona State.
Arizona State, he came back too. Avery Johnson.
Baylor may have the best quarterback in the league. He's been lighting it up.
Again, did not have that on the bingo card. Credit to Baylor and shouts to my guy Drake Toll for having a team that actually finally does well without being handed a game like they were when he was here in the UCF campus previously. But, shouts to the Dulce Grande there. But with that in mind, Baylor's a surprise. And I'll put it this way. You mentioned earlier that the other Big 12 teams, minus the Cowboys of the mullet, Oklahoma State, are not okay. That team is not okay. Everybody else is better than.
Houston's a lot better. That quarterback that came over from A&M, if he stays healthy, Connor Wigerman, that could be a problem for this defense. And that's what I'm saying. Gio Lopez, quite frankly, George Lopez would have been a bigger problem for this UCF defensive line than Gio Lopez because George would have had a lot better.
Heard it and done just as good as that Lopez yourself, Lopez, right?
I'll throw it out there. He just didn't do any favor. He's terrible. He was awful. I can't believe that guy. I can't believe that's who Bill Belichick. I joked with you. That's like starting Zappy. Remember when he started Zappy with the Patriots? That's what this guy is.
I think there's an element too with the quarterback position, right? It's harder to get a guy last minute because their deals are higher paid and they're already locked in. So I think that's part of the challenge. And maybe this is just the best that can be done. To your credit, Scott Frost still in that same position and at least came down catching a Taven Jackson in the mix. So
with upside, right? That's again.
I
credit
think
to him.
I think he might have had a little bit more time, a little bit more organization to deal with it. But
Scott mentioned that in the presser that I think he had probably a little bit more ahead of schedule because I think Bill was a later hire, which is kind of weird to say, but I think
it was. Yeah, there was a lot more negotiation going on there because his deal was so much bigger. And listen, if we were going to catch Belichick as a program here at UCF, this was the year to do it.
But I still, and I said in the open, I think if you're UCF, you're feeling good about your move. You feel good about the staff you got. Hey, you're going in the right direction. Like if I'm a North Carolina guy, I don't feel good at all. At least you're UCF, you're feeling optimistic that this could work. And I think that's the big positive from a UCF standpoint. I want to look at this. Kansas State's a tricky game in Manhattan. I still think that's a tough place to win.
I agree.
I think it depends on which Kansas State shows up. I think Kansas is going to be a problem with Jalen Daniels healthy at quarterback.
And remembering how to play quarterback, exactly.
First quarterback they play that's legitimate, that can actually throw the football and run. That's going to be a problem for UCF. You look at the rest of the schedule. West Virginia might be down. Rich Rod in his first year at home. That's a winnable game. Would you guys agree? West Virginia is a winnable game.
It's winnable, but it's a crapshoot. So many of these games that are on the schedule beyond these first three, Eric, are crapshoots minus OK State.
That's the beauty of it. I mean, that's the thing. I'm with you guys. I think it's a bowl team. I think it's a 6-7 win bowl team, and I think it's a success if they could get to that level. Either way.
See,
and
optimist Steve here, he's put on his flip flops. He's saying 8. I ain't mad at the bowl.
Kyle.
It's a sprint. You're going with the sprint. I'm a fat guy. I do marathons, dude. Learning here.
I'll tell you. You realize, I mean, 8 wins, 9s gets you kind of flirting with Pop-Tarts.
Listen, I would not be wounded to stay here locally for that bowl season game. It would not be the first time I've done that too, by the way.
Yeah, that's a very good point. All right, give me your last thoughts on this team, this win, and moving forward. What you want to see now moving forward with this team. And actually, Steve, let me start with you. What would you think of the atmosphere, the fans, the students? Give me your overall thoughts on that.
Yeah, hey, I mean, it's a great view up in the press box, but I was definitely getting some videos from my roommates in the student section, and but I'm happy with my Philly cheesesteaks that I got up here. But it was great, the fireworks were going. I really did think that it was a good atmosphere for the fans. Everybody dressed in black for the most part. We had a few Space U's dribbled throughout. So not.
No, those were North Carolina fans. I think you misunderstand Brown, Stephen Brown. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Well, I was called you Dodge. That's not your name.
But I thought the atmosphere was great. Both of the student sections were filled for the most part, majority filled, which I think is exactly what the team needs. Towards the end of last season, when Gus had one foot out the door, nobody was really bought in. And I was here for the senior night, and the only reason the stands were packed was for RJ Harvey. And that was. No in contention to even get a bowl game. So it's good to see that the fans are excited. They're showing out. They're being loud, and they're being fans. And so that's exactly what UCF needs.
The best part of being at the game in person, you didn't have to hear to the broadcast at all. Woo!
I got my own broadcast with Kyle right next to me. That one I'll take over any.
That's much, much, much better. I could guarantee you on that. Kyle, what is the last things here for this program to move forward? 3-0. You're going to go on the road. Manhattan's going to be a tricky road game. But what do you want to see from this team moving forward here?
I mean, it's cliche as hell, but keep building. I mean, because let's be honest, Eric, and guys, do we know what this team is yet? I don't think so.
No, I agree. You asked that question earlier. I don't. I think that's and it's weird to say, you're 3-0. What are you talking about? I think there are things we like about the defensive line, but we still don't know who this team is. We don't know how they're going to handle things outside of the campus. I'm really curious how this team handles the road. I really don't know. We're going to find out.
I'm real excited for this first road game. I think it's going to be a good test for him.
I can't put it any better. This feels like one of those where UCF and the fan base may feel like this is a game they should win. And if they check another box like they did tonight, beating North Carolina for their first power conference victory, so be it. And then if they beat Kansas State, granted, a down team currently, let me show my air quotes better for the camera. That's still another bit of hype and another bit of building to grow this team's confidence. And, then maybe they can win that shootout game.
And you know what? It gives you confidence. Maybe it doesn't give you 100% confidence on what this team is this year, but it might give you more confidence in this coaching staff you have.
And the future. That's a great call, Eric.
And the future. Because Spencer Tillman, I thought, made an interesting comment. I joke. I took a shot at the broadcast. It was not pretty, folks. But it's Fox. What do you expect? He said he thinks they got more talent here at UCF right now than Scott had at any point in Nebraska. Think about that.
Oh, at Nebraska, clearly.
Yeah.
Clearly. Because he left the hotbed. Folks.
And by the way, Nebraska lost at home to Michigan today. So in the exact same time slot. So my point is, this guy might be able to coach outside of that state of, like, you know what I mean? Like, and I think Scott even alluded to, God, was it today's presser where he talked about there's pressure here to coach, right, and win, but it's not the same. And he stopped himself. You could tell that, in Nebraska, there was pressure beyond on the field, that you're one of them. You're supposed to there's pressure to win here, but he understands the pressure.
Yeah, you win as a natty as a player. You always win as a coach. It's most unfortunate. Yeah,
right.
I'm
Whereas here, he understands the pressure. I think he is one of the few people, and you and I I know you disagree with where I rank him in the all-time head coaching list for UCF.
Yes, I do, but that's okay.
But I think he's one of the few UCF coaches that kind of understands the fan base and knows how to control it. Would you agree?
Sure.
Would you agree that, Stephen? As a student yourself, don't you feel that Scott connects with you guys, knows how to connect with you guys in his way that other coaches haven't?
Yeah, absolutely. He like you mentioned, he talked about in the press conference how there is pressure to coach here, but he said how much fun it is, and that is something that I think we saw today. And the students love him. The First Frost 2.0. There's so many pun. I know Kyle is just like
Hey, you need to chill with talking about frost puns.
But he made a point. He made the point in the presser where he talked about Travis Fisher and Sean Beckham and how they have that chip on the shoulder about, hey, we're not Central Florida. We're UCF. Like,
Belichick's even doing it, right?
Well, and I thought that was funny that he brought that up, and it was almost, I guarantee you they used that Belichick soundbite in that locker room. But that's Scott. Scott uses, like, no other UCF football coach would have used, like, whatever. What's the point, right? Like, who cares? But Frost understands that's kind of like a big deal here.
Yeah.
That's the genius in him. Mm-hmm. And that's why I've said that him and Cindy Ball Malone, the UCF softball coach, who I both ranked together 6 and 7,
I still find it insane that you rank the Bear below Scott Frost, but sure. Your mic's down, man. So, but I mean, the reason why I have to make the Cindy Ball Malone joke, Steve, is simply because, like, we know my guy as the stickball, Sultan of stickball, and he's got to look out for his softball crew. And I'm not knocking it, but I even have to say I'm surprised that he put Cindy Ball Malone ahead of Scott Frost in his rankings. I have no idea how that happened exactly, but here we are. But and I'll wrap up with this as Eric's trying to figure out what's going on there. The piece for me for UCF moving forward is, like, we're back to the growth thing, and I think that's tied to the penalties piece. Those are the synonyms that's going on there. So, in my mind, that's the big piece. You mentioned it. I've mentioned it. Eric Lopez has mentioned it. And on top of everything else, as you confirmed earlier, coach and each one of the players also mentioned it. Just that discipline piece of it has been the focus since we first saw Jacksonville State. The numerous penalties. I believe it was 11. I could have that wrong because I'm just saying off the top of my head. But that performance being what it was, and then still having a lot of penalties in the tune-up game, as Eric likes to call it, with North Carolina A&T. Well, granted, the Tar Heels were not able to raise up, nor were they able to take their shirts off and wave it around their heads like a helicopter. But still, I like Coach Frost embracing that learn in a win aspect. And when I even asked Taven Jackson, about how much he's learned since week 1, and he made that about, mistakes he can make better. I wasn't even criticizing him, but he still owned that. And then you mentioned him owning the 3 points. So, I'm in your mind, if there's a number of penalties that you want to see in the box score in Manhattan next week, Steve, what's that number, and what makes you say, okay, fine, I feel good about this team's discipline? I mean, obviously you want them to have 0 penalties, but let's be honest, that's hard even for an NFL team to do.
Yeah. So I just looked at the box score. They had 7 for 40 today on the penalties. So I feel they really, really emphasize that they want to clean that up. So, I mean, you know what they say, they can call holding on every play. So there's going to be some like
I
those.
resent that remark as the offensive lineman, sir, but go ahead.
So yeah, you're obviously going to have some of those, but if you can get out of there with 2 or 3 minor penalties, we saw them today have some of those major penalties to where it kept.
Can you just not do it on 3rd down? That would be great.
Kept the opposing offense on the field when they should be getting off, or completely stalling a drive. So you really gotta minimize those.
Yeah, it's more the defense. That's a good point you bring up, because Miles had mentioned the offense was only I think accrued 1 penalty themselves. The rest were jumps and all these other things. There was an illegal procedure on the offense as well, I think.
Yeah.
But with all that in mind, and watch the ball. I even coached my flag football guys better than that in IMs. Watch the ball. You don't jump off sides. Lo and behold, they watch the ball. They don't jump off sides. If my IM team can do it, this night's team can do it. That's what I think.
And going back to what we were talking about building, and they're like, we heard it all last year Gus Malzahn was saying, we just got to be better, and you didn't really feel it, but with this team, they're 3-0, and they know what's wrong, and they were able to point it out.
They were able to enunciate. Correct. That's a great point.
And so I really think that that's important, and you can feel it, that like these guys are hungry and they want to win, for especially today for Coach Clark, and they all really emphasized that and how important it was to get a win for him. But you can really tell how bought in these guys are.
100%. You know what? I think that's a good place to go. We'll leave you, Stephen Brown, with the last word. That's how good a night you had tonight here working with us here on the night shift and the Black and Gold Banneret. Of course, look out for me dropping Making the Grade later tonight on the blackandgoldbanneret.com, and make sure you tweet any of us, be it Eric Lopez at Eric Lopez Elo, me at the SOTG, the Black and Gold Banneret at UCF Banneret _SBN. And Steve, go ahead. What's yours?
Stephen B. Reports on X and Instagram.
You're darn right. He does. Exactly. And by the way, I'm a family man. It's still Twitter. I don't like telling people I'm on X. They get the wrong idea. So with that in mind, for the great and incomparable Salt and Stickball Eric Lopez, for Stephen Brown, I am Kyle Nash, student of the game. Until next time, everyone, class dismissed.